We got this with Kyle Rittenhouse. This one actually really surprises me. This is from NPR. Prosecutors cannot call those shot by Kyle Rittenhouse victims, a judge has ruled. And he also ruled they can call them arsonists, rioters, and looters. I didn't see this coming. There's been a few rulings in favor of Kyle Rittenhouse in these pretrial hearings. The trial, I believe, is what, 6 days?
November 1st, it's supposed to start.
November 1st.
Yep, any day now.
Oh, man. Jury selection is coming up. I was saying before that I thought Kyle Rittenhouse was going to get life in prison.
Right.
Because the jury is going to be unwilling to go up against the riots. When those riots happened in Kenosha, the only people who came out and did anything was, for the most part, Rittenhouse and the people with him, the militia guys. The cops said, thank you for being here, and gave them water. But do you think the jurors are happy about that? I'm sure they're just like, I wish there was no conflict. Now, if they side with Rittenhouse and those individuals, maybe they can cross their fingers that those people will come out and defend their neighborhood after the riots happen. Or they can say, he's guilty and he can go to jail, and then we don't got to worry about riots at all.
This is going to be a very important case because a lot of people are betting on this case. A lot of people, there's a lot of implications here.
Betting like in Vegas?
A lot of people are doubling down and investing in this, and a lot of people are threatening to riot. A lot of people are threatening a lot of civil disobedience. A lot of people are threatening to do violence to others if this court decision doesn't go the way that they want it to go. So you see this politicized in so many different ways, and that's why it's going to be so difficult to actually get true justice here, I believe, because of how many people from the outside are involved in this, how many people are investing into this. And what I mean by betting, I mean putting political capital into this, because a lot of this hangs in the balance of where this country is going to go. That's how a lot of people see it. And if they see if Kyle wins, this is going to be a plus for the right-wingers. If Kyle loses, this is going to be good for the left-wingers. And these are big sides that are mounting a lot of power behind this major court decision.
I think that it's right. He's a totem, and I mean, I don't have a strong opinion on the case. I mean, that's why we have an adversarial criminal justice system. The jury should know more about it than I do. But I do think the context of the case, this sort of like temporary collapse of civil society that happened last summer, is the context in which this all became possible. Is the context in which a teenager, justifiably or not, was out patrolling the street with a weapon. Like something deeper has gone wrong that you get to that point, regardless of whether or not he was justified in the individual shot.
Where
you said temporary collapse.
Well, they aren't currently okay. They're not doing great in Minneapolis, but they aren't currently having exactly in Kenosha. They're having exactly the same level of rioting that they were having.
I think this is a symptom of the greater problem, which is the collapse of civil society. If you take a look at the federal level politics, if you take a look at even state politics, right now it just feels like the law is, if you are in line with the party in power, you're good. If you're not, you're out. Democrats control most of the cultural institutions, basically all of them. Right now they have Congress and the executive branch. And as much as conservatives people might claim that conservatives have the Supreme Court, it's still kind of an establishment conservative based on the Supreme Court, not a populist Trump supporting one. So what happens? Well, Alec Baldwin likely will, face no charges. Kyle Rittenhouse is facing very serious homicide charges. And the crazy thing is, there's a lot of people that want to say Rittenhouse is a hero. I don't think we need to say that. I think the situation was bad all around and people shouldn't have been there. But it's hard to discern exactly how it should have went down. I'm not going to pretend to have all the answers. But when you have someone like Destiny, who is the leftist streamer, he got banned from Twitch's partner program for saying definitively this was the clearest case of self-defense he'd ever seen, or something to that effect.
Right.
Like the fact that they charged him with homicide and these very serious charges says to me they're expecting to fail.
So my favorite example is: did you follow the case of the two New York highly educated lawyers who got picked up? Right. Colin Mattis, the and
Molotov cocktail ones?
Rouge Rahman. Yeah, the guy, the two people who went out and threw Molotov cocktails at cop cars. And what I love about that story is the rallying to their defense. If you go look at federal records, there were lots of people who got picked up for arson charges. guys who threw Molotov cocktails at the courthouse in Seattle, people who burned out cop cars, and yet peculiarly, these are the ones who like got a full court press in the media. These two highly educated, well-connected activists / lawyers who decided they would go out joyriding with explosives and attack a cop car,
Handing them out. Weren't they giving them out to people?
Yeah. They received like adulatory attention in all of the and the reason is because they know the people who write the coverage. They are in the position of power, and so they eventually they pled guilty. They're going to go to sentencing. I think they're not. The statute of maximum is 10 years. They're not going to get 10 years.
They're not getting it. Yeah,
nobody's statutory maximum.
There was major media organizations running defense for them.
Yeah.
I mean, this goes along with what was happening last summer. I mean, dozens of people were murdered. People were burned alive. And then we had people like Kamala Harris raising money for them to get them bailed out of jail.
Right.
So that tells you.
They found in the Minneapolis riots, it was like a month after a building had burnt to the ground, they found a corpse.
Yep.
They didn't even know it was the missing person. They're like, oh, the rioters.
That's where it went,
yeah, the rioters killed him.
The murderers killed him.
And it's what's important about this is not just the rioting. The rioting happens. It's the normalization, the cultural normalization of rioting, and simultaneously the approbation for law enforcement. Because those were simultaneous phenomena.
Yeah.
Is like there was a the real problem we were being told as our cities were burning was that the cops are too tough.
Right.
Would that be considered murder if you burned a building down and there's a person inside that you didn't know was in there?
Of course.
I would say so,
but
right?
at the same time, a lot of people were unhappy with the cops, even on the right, because of the lockdowns. Cops are coming along, shutting down small mom and pop businesses. People on the right were like, wait, what is this back to blue flag that I have here that absolutely is hypocritical for me to have if I actually believe in personal freedom and liberty?
I was told coming in that I was gonna have to be the one defending the cops.
Yes. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I think. Look, the responsibility. Maybe you don't want to litigate that particular topic now, but in general, the responsibility of the police is to preserve civil order and enforce the law as written.
Yeah, and allow Walmart and Costco to be open while they shut down the small mom and pop businesses.
Yeah, it seems.
Would you say that's ethical and right and moral?
No, I would not say that's ethical or right or moral. I would also say that the root of the problem is not with policing as an institution.
Well, I think policing, just in general, obeying orders from bureaucrats when they're immoral, illegal, and decrees is a huge moral problem in this country, and why a lot of people on the right didn't support them when Black Lives Matter stepped onto the streets and were saying, hey, we don't like these cops. A lot of right-wingers secretly were like, yeah, they got a point. I don't like them either because of what they just did to me.
The same attitude of concern or opposition to civil society. It's like, look, at the end of the day, we live in a society that there's rules. You don't have to like the rules. There are processes for changing these rules. I think there's a problem that those processes become increasingly abstracted from democratic accountability. That's bad. But like at the end of the day, if you don't like the rules, you still have to follow them. If you don't, we don't have a society anymore. We can't live in a society where we can't live in a society where you can be free to throw a Molotov cocktail at people and get free defense in the press. And while I agree that unequal enforcement is bad and bad rules are bad, like the ground trust in that law and order, I think, is critical for running a stable, functioning polity.
And you're right, except when it comes to Luke's examples, the police were shutting down businesses by decree without legislative process. So these were cops who were saying, look, it's not a law, it's not democratic, it's not legal, but the guy who signs my checks told me to do it, so I'm going to do it anyway.
And they did it selectively, so the politicians' friends got to do whatever they wanted to, the billionaire class.
Take a look at de Blasio painting Black Lives Matter in the street and then sending 27 cops to defend that. That was an illegal seizure of taxpayer dollars to do.
Sure. And, I think hypocrisy on the part of executives is a major problem throughout the pandemic. If it's Gavin Newsom dining at
the French restaurant, the laundry restaurant.
French Laundry. If it's all the big city mayors who have been caught not wearing masks or they continue to impose mask mandates in their cities, it's a major problem. Like Biden administration officials who keep getting picked up not wearing masks in public. On the Amtrak.
Lori Lightfoot and Nancy Pelosi getting their hair did.
Yeah.
And Whitmer. There was an incident in North Jersey where when they shut down all the businesses, a woman was doing a Facebook live stream showing off the things she sold. And cops came to her business and said, ma'am, you need to close. And she goes, what are you talking about? We are closed. And they're like, no, turn your phone off. That's the crazy thing. There was no law saying you couldn't post a video online and say, hey, I got stuff, you want to buy it? And the cops came and threatened her. Who are these cops? These are the people. So this is the problem I have. If this is the direction policing is going, where cops are quitting over vaccine mandates, they're refusing to abide by the edicts, and those who will abide by the edict are staying in place, then we don't have what you described. Police officers keeping civil society, functioning and enforcing the rules. What we have are people who are not enforcing the rules, who are just acting as lackeys for despots who are ruling by decree, in which case we need to stop that. Now, if abolishing the police is too extreme, and maybe it is, then we need to fire all the cops that are unwilling to abide by the law and then hire cops who are. And how we do that, maybe it's a review process then. But all of these cops that are remaining right now need to be questioned. It's like, hey, we have you on video shutting down a small business by decree. We're firing you because of that. Or we have a video of you beating a black man in the street for no reason. Yeah, you're getting fired over that.
Yeah. So I think that's right. You want to fire the guy who beats a black man in the street for no reason. Every cop that I have talked to says, independent of the merits of the case, Derek Chauvin was not the guy that they want to be. He's not. They were not fans of his. Every cop that I have spoken to, right. He was doing something wrong. But I think policing in particular is so subject to this very particular critical lens where we pick out the most high salience harms. Do I think that you can go back and forth about the validity of public health edicts or the arbitrary way in which they were enforced? All laws can be enforced arbitrarily, but I think there are lots of abuses. But I don't think that what I'm interested in defending is the institution of policing as such, because that's the thing that I think is under attack.
I kind of disagree with you because people throughout history always argue we need to do the legal thing. Well, it was legal to segregate people based on their race. It was legal to put people in extermination camps. It was legal to do all horrible atrocities that governments have committed throughout human history.
Absolutely.
And it was written decree by the law, by executives, by whatever processes. And I think some of those have to be questioned sometimes.
The law, right? Absolutely. The law is the least worst governance that we have. Right. It's just it's not good. It's just better than the absence thereof.
I would maybe I would argue that there would be less harm.
I think, as we were discussing, to bring the conversation full circle, the thing that gave birth to Kyle Rittenhouse is what anarchy looks like. I think that is
absolutely not.
That's a narco-tyranny.
No. If it wasn't for the state incentivizing, putting fuel on that fire, making that fire that much worse, working hand in hand with the mainstream media, showing that George Floyd footage over and over again, enraging people, we would have never happened if we didn't have so many state elements participating in it.
The cops were there. They were for days. These people were burning down buildings. There's a video where a guy in his 70s was his mattress store, I think it was being burned down. And when he tried stopping people, someone went behind him and cracked him over the head with a rock, left him lying on the ground unconscious and bleeding out. And the police stood back and did nothing. Yes. So why am I going to support these guys? Why am I going to pay for these guys? When Kyle Rittenhouse and his crew showed up, the cop said, "Thank you for being here," and gave them water. So then, just one last point. When it finally reaches the point where they were pushing a flaming dumpster towards a gas station, and they were, we have video footage, and we've had we've had 5 witnesses,
so many witnesses
on this show telling us that's what they were doing, and the police did nothing. What do? We can sit back and say there was a good possibility the gas station could have blown up. Or Kyle Rittenhouse took a fire extinguisher and put the fire out, so they chased after him, and then someone fired around either into the air or at him, depending on who you ask. The press says in the air, New York Times says that some witnesses we've spoken to said it was at him, and then he turned and was attacked by Rosenbaum and fired in self-defense. If the police were doing their job, none of this would have happened.
Yeah, I agree with that.
There you go.
No, okay, so you guys had Michael Schellenberger on recently, right? Yeah. And Schellenberger in his book, he got what he claims is the first at length interview with Carmen Best, who was she was chief of police in Seattle. Yeah. Where the Chaz Chop protests happened. And she was the one who got the order to give up the 5th precinct and retreat after they took over the precinct and established their little autonomous zone. And when she says, she was like, "This is insane. Why are you telling me?" It's just very basic strategy. You don't give up a defended position to a bunch of rioters. But she was ordered to, and I think the reason for that is that there was a sense that police activity and harmful police activity, no matter how justified, was going to be punished in the public eye more than rioter activity was.
So it's like when you go to the ice cream shop and there's a little kid screaming, "I want 2 scoops." The mom's like, I'm sorry, can you give me 2 more scoops? He'll stop yelling if I do. And then he never stops.
Yeah.
The police need to come in and say, what you are doing is illegal.
Right.
You are hurting people and burning down buildings, and we will respond in kind to stop you.
But there's no there's a sense. So you talk about officers leaving over vaccine mandates. But cops have been departing big city departments, either retiring or resigning, or most frequently, as far as I can tell, going to other more friendly jurisdictions. And when you talk to them, what they say is basically like, I don't believe that the civilian leadership is going to have my back. I don't believe that if I make the wrong call, I think they're going to throw me under the bus because my job is not popular.
There's an element of that, but there's also a lot of police officers that are brown-nosing and are saying, you want me to leave? You want me to give this police precinct to these crazy people? Sure, have it. Yeah. There's police officers standing by. I remember watching police officers twiddle their thumbs as like rioters were just taking New York City by storm.
It's really simple then. It's really simple. The system's broken. The police aren't policing. The system doesn't work. The institution, as we've known it and want to protect, is gone. And so now my fear is what remains are cops who are unwilling to enforce against rioters because of bad optics and because they won't get protected. But they're more than happy to arrest you for bearing arms, your constitutional right, and they're more than happy to fine people and do all of the administrative and bureaucratic, civil violation stuff. So all that's going to happen is people are going to say, I was going like 5 over and I got pulled over. Dude, give me a break. Some dude burned down my favorite restaurant last night. Y'all did nothing for it. So if we're getting only the worst of policing, and it's not just the police's fault because of it, it's also civilian leadership, then what are we actually defending?
Well, but I think that's a policy choice, right? It's not the case that it's not the case that necessarily this needs to be the arrangement. I think it's the case that there's when I was talking about Schellenberg's book, San Francisco, I think one of the things that comes across is really a theme of contemporary progressivism is that socially deviant, harmful behavior should be tolerated, and socially normal behavior, the average person should be highly regulated. That like if you want to do drugs and camp out on the sidewalk and poop. There, you can do that, and we will pay you to do it. But everybody has to be subject to the mask mandate. Everybody has to have their soda banned.
Ooh, diaper mandate.
Yeah, well, but I think that is a theory of urban governance. That's a progressive theory of urban governance. It's like, and the thing that happened in the riots is that the judgment call was made that it would be more harmful to the legitimacy of the city to see cops stopping riots than it would just be to like let everything burn. And this is propagated through the media, right? NPR published why rioting is good. Everybody everywhere was like, in defense of looting. Everybody was like, well, the insurance companies will pay out, so it's fine. They didn't. Hosing the small business owners in the process. There's a systematic choice that was made to say this deviant behavior will be tolerated because the legitimacy of the system is in question if it isn't tolerated. So I take your point about the selectiveness. I just think the problem is like several levels up from the cops per se as an institution. The problem is like terrible governance decisions.
Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to watch live, you can check out this channel Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, and if you want more unfiltered and uncensored content with all of these guests, go to timcast.com and become a member. All of these guests you know and love in exclusive segments on our website where we are unrestricted in what we talk about, so you'll definitely not want to miss it. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you all next time.